So, tonight's talk is about Kung Fu Retreat, which some of you have heard me talk about incessantly ever since you started at the dojo. It's the best weekend of the year every year. Now we have two best weekends of the year every year because we do ours in Malibu and then we still go back to Seafood Brown's in Michigan. And I've been going there for about, I think this is my 18th retreat this year without missing. And I've skipped weddings of friends to go to retreat. I have just like this last weekend, I've been there through an injury where I'm just basically standing around most of the time and just watching but not actually getting to participate in it. I've been to retreats where it rains and pours the whole time. I've been to retreats. My first retreat, I was a white sash. I'd been practicing for only a couple of months. And it was scary and so fun, and I told Seafood Brown this last weekend and all the students there, but Kung Fu Retreat, and specifically the demo on Kung Fu Retreat, is why I decided that I wanted to do martial arts and teach martial arts for the rest of my life. And Seafood Brown talks about it like this. If you were to take just the number of hours that we spend doing martial arts on Kung Fu Retreat, what did he say? It's like 20 hours or something? 20 hours, it's a lot of time practicing martial arts. And if you spread it out over the normal amount of time, it's like 2 or 3 months worth of practice. But it has a different effect on us when we cram it all into 2.5 days because this concentrated amount of practice, you start to experience and feel things in a different way. It's kind of like if you were to sit and meditate for 5 minutes 10 times in a day rather than doing one 50-minute meditation. The one 50-minute meditation has a different kind of power to it, and it allows you to become absorbed into the meditation. And same thing in retreat. If you spend a longer chunk of time, it starts to, absorb into your very being. And it is an experience that I love so much. I will never miss a retreat. Even when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to miss retreats. They'll just have to cancel retreat. When I went this year, we brought 4 other students and 5 if you include Steph, who I do now include because she's moved here and she's now an LA student. She just didn't come in the car with us. But so there were 6 of us, including me, from Michigan, from LA, that went to Michigan, and we arrived kind of late because where we stopped for dinner took its sweet time making our food. But when we got there, the first drill was already in progress. And the first drill is one of my favorite drills every single year. It's a flow drill where you kind of build one technique onto another. And a lot of you guys have done this before. And it's funny because Seafood Brown says this is a great drill because it's easy to hop in anytime that you arrive. I think it's the opposite of that. I think that actually it's much harder to hop in, but it is an amazing drill that really kind of encapsulates the feeling of the weekend where you get into the flow of things and start to experience things, more outside of your mind, outside of this logical state of mind that we usually spend our time in, because you get into this repetition of this long sequence of complicated techniques, and at first you're kind of thinking your way through it, but then you start to go faster and faster, and you get it out of your head and into your muscle memory, and you just start to go, and you're in this state of flow. It's the closest thing to Mushin that a lot of us get into with our physical practice when we're doing the flow drill. So I love it, and I get why Seafood Brown does it almost every single year, the first thing for retreat, and we've done it most of our retreats too, is the first drill. In case you're wondering, if you haven't been to both our retreat and Seafood Brown's retreat, I basically just steal as much as I can from Seafood Brown's retreat and do it in Malibu. and it's just my attempt at sharing this awesome weekend with as many people as I can. So we did flow drill, and then Sifu gives a talk, and we meditate. We wake up the next day very early. I won't even tell you how early it is because I don't want you guys to be afraid to show up to retreat, but it is almost too early for me. And we go straight into Kihon, so we're throwing hard techniques, and we're out on a basketball court surrounded by the woods, and it's absolutely beautiful, and the sun's coming up, and it is a little bit chilly, and we start throwing stuff, and I'm starting to get warmed up, and I'm just firing out front kicks, and I start going. I'm throwing front kicks like I've never thrown front kicks before, and that's saying something because I've thrown probably a couple 100,000 front kicks, but this was something special until it wasn't. And I threw a front kick that was so fast that my body could not catch up to the speed of the kick, and it broke the sound barrier, and there was a sonic boom, like a jet came over, and I felt a pop, and I put my foot down, and I thought, that was weird, and I tried to throw a second kick, and it was not working. And so I did something to a hamstring. I blew a hammy. And I tried, I kind of like hobbled around for a little bit, and then I left and iced it and came back. And basically spent the rest of the weekend walking around like somebody who threw a front kick way too fast, way too early in the day. And I was thinking about this. Every time I get an injury doing anything, I tell you guys about it. And if you've been here for several years, you've probably heard about 2 or maybe 3 injuries that I've had doing martial arts, because that's about as many as I've had. I've been doing martial arts for 20 years, and I've had a handful of what I would consider injuries. I'm not talking about like, I have a bruise because my partner hit me a little too hard. I mean like a blown hamstring. And I can still walk, I can still do everything, I just can't do front kicks or jump around like I used to. I'm not as spry as I was once upon a time. And it's funny because it's the exception that proves the rule. Martial arts is super safe. It is the safest thing that you will do if you're doing it with the right kind of mindset. We practice so mindfully, and we take such good care of each other and ourselves that it is very difficult to actually get a serious injury doing martial arts. And I'm pretty sure that I could throw another couple 100,000 front kicks and not get this injury again, but it just happened. It's a fluke. And so I have now this opportunity that I relish, and I'm not being facetious, and I'm not like blowing smoke up your butt. I'm saying this is actually how I think of it. When I get an injury like this, it is an opportunity for me to practice being more mindful and really paying attention to the way that I move, recognizing what I can and can't do, and working on different areas of my practice. And some of you guys have been injured either from martial arts or usually doing something else dumb like walking down the street or playing basketball or whatever. And you're like, I want to keep practicing, but I can't do it the way that I normally do. Okay, we can find a way for you to practice. And it might be like, well, you can't throw kicks right now, so you're going to throw more punches. Or you can't sidestep, so you're going to pivot. Or you can't do this, so you're going to do chin out, or you're going to grapple. That's one of the beautiful things about our style and the way that we practice, is there are so many different things that we can do. And you just come to class and we figure out a way to do it. And I kept joking to Sifu and the other students on retreat, I can't really do anything like physically right now, but I can still walk around and yell at people, which is all I really need to do. And then of course on Monday, I started to lose my voice. I jinxed it. I started teaching the little kids class, and I was yelling so much that I completely lost my voice, just out of nowhere. I'm kind of on the fringe right now. I might lose it by the end of this talk, but I can at least walk around and give people the stink eye if your technique doesn't look good. It's the best that I can do. So that was the first drill, which was still awesome. The only thing I would change about it was that one front kick. Then we had breakfast, and breakfast is wonderful. I love breakfast because I am hungry, and I just worked hard for a couple of hours. And the food on retreat in Michigan is not as good as the food at our retreat in Malibu, but it is still plenty good. It tastes wonderful, and there's all of it that you can eat, which is the most important thing. And we have a little bit of a rest, and then we go into the second drill. The second drill was a bonkers insane drill that we have never done before and likely will never do again. But I will give you guys a very short description of it so I don't completely ruin it if we ever do decide to do it. But basically, it was a drill that you can't really do in the dojo because we get used to coming and practicing in the dojo. And you know where everything is and you feel pretty safe. So we did some things that you would do in an advanced class, but we did them in the bathroom. And let's just say that nobody got really hurt. You know, people got just banged around a little bit, but the bathroom did not look good at the end. I mean, there were walls that were askew, and that is not an overstatement. I mean, there were literally walls that were moved during this drill, and it was an incredible energy to this drill. It was kind of designed to confuse, terrify, and adrenalize us. And at the end, Sifu had some people that were attackers, and I was one of the attackers. I could still do that just standing on one leg. He gave me a knife, and I was able to stab people. But the most interesting part was at the very end, he told us, okay, all of you attackers, no one's attacking anybody. You guys are just going to make lots of sound and noise and try to leave, but you're not going to try to attack or hurt anybody. And I thought for sure that because people were used to, like, as soon as Sifu yells go, you just grab the person next to you and start attacking them. I thought people were going to do that, but only one guy, who I don't even remember his name, so he's lucky I'm not going to out him in this talk, but only one guy grabbed me and like kind of threw me to the side. Everybody, even though they were adrenalized and kind of freaked out by this drill, they were all still super mindful, and for this last round of the drill, nobody was attacking anybody. Nobody was like, overreacting and freaking out. They just kind of mindfully shuffled out the door when they were supposed to. And this is a really important thing to be able to do, and it is the opposite of what a lot of different styles of martial arts teach. If you take, for example, Krav Maga. Krav Maga is a very practical style for self-defense, and it teaches a lot of great stuff that we teach on a physical level, but the philosophy and the attitude is very different. It is like shock and awe. If you think somebody might be looking at you funny, you knock them out. And if I would have been very terrified to be trapped in the bathroom, everyone is doing Krav Maga, because we all would have left with broken legs. And to be able to be in that stressful environment and still have the wherewithal to not start a fight when it didn't exist beforehand, to be able to be calm and mindful enough in that situation was pretty incredible. And it's a huge testament to the way that we practice and all the work that the students have been putting in for years. So I loved that drill. We'll see if we ever do it. I'm not sure if we're ready for it. Then lunch. Lunch is amazing. It's a lot of food and it's delicious. Then, what was the next drill that we did? Was that down at the beach? The beach, yes. Oh, and we did some crazy stuff on the beach. There was crazy stuff. That was even more dangerous than the bathroom. But it was like multiple attackers, and Sifu was teaching these great principles from Aikido. And Sifu Brown has this amazing ability to take like a theme and a concept and build a class around it. And it's something that I'm still working on. But that was a wonderful class to watch, and again, kind of amazing that people didn't get hurt. And I guess I'll just point out that like in that other drill, if this were happening, if these types of drills were happening, I mean, there were like 70 or 80 people crammed into a very small area on the beach, all getting thrown around, and like very few incidents. I guess I can't say that nobody got hurt, but very few incidents. And that that class would have ended in a death if it happened someplace else with some other school, because we had knives at one point. There were wooden knives, but still, we had people flying all over the place. It was crazy. And to stand from the outside and watch it as somebody with the amount of experience that I have teaching and seeing drills like this, I knew that it was more or less safe. But if you saw it from the perspective of somebody who hadn't practiced and seen this sort of thing before, you would have sworn that there was like a serious fight happening and that everybody was about to just get killed. So it's incredible, again, what we can do, how when we practice with that level of intentional mindfulness and safety, that we can go super intensely and still come out okay. And then was dinner. Dinner was wonderful and delicious. and then we did grappling, right? Grappling. So Sifu Brown got out all the mats and we grapple underneath the stars. We had fires going. My job was to keep a fire going, and I did an okay job. And it's incredible when you get the mats outside. Like in the dojo, it's always 70 to 75 degrees and sunny and beautiful and perfect. But as soon as you take the mats outside, they conduct heat and cold unlike any other substance known to man. There's got to be some scientists just frantically trying to figure out how it's possible, what the physical properties are of these mats. But if it's sunny out, the mats are 110 degrees. And if it's 50 degrees, the mats are below freezing. And yet everybody's out there just grappling and kind of keeping each other warm, and it was an absolutely awesome class to watch. And Sifu invited me to talk about my experience in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, practicing with Roger Machado, and I talked a little bit about that. I loved it. And then we went to bed, woke up the next day, and did Tai Chi on the beach, which is one of my favorite things always, because there's only so much that you can do after a day like Saturday when you wake up and you get to just move slowly and be relaxed and do like a moving meditation. And breathing as a group, you really get this sensation of oneness. And this is really what our practice is about on some level, especially our meditation practice, and especially our Tai Chi as a moving meditation. When you do that as a group, and you get into this groove and this rhythm with other people, you start to lose this separation between yourself and the other people that you're practicing with. And the ego starts to melt away a little bit, and you're left with just, the sensation of life and reality. You're just left with what is, without you getting in the way of it, and it's beautiful. And then we have breakfast, which is also beautiful. And then we did, what was the last, oh yeah, the last drill was also a crazy drill. We taped mitts to trees and ran through the forest and beat up the trees, and then took sticks and did the same thing with sticks. And I love watching everybody do this drill, but especially Anne, because Anne goes into this mode where she's like on the battlefield in ancient China, and she's just like skewering 10 people at a time, and it's like watching a movie. And it's a very cool drill to finish with. And then we ended with some talks by Sifu and some of the other students. And I'll say that retreat, the reason that I go every year, and the reason that we will have one every year, is not just because of the physical practice, which is a ton of fun. I love it, and absolutely I believe that it's a very powerful and important thing to get that much practice in a short amount of time. But it's really just about spending time with the best people in the world. The people who are dedicating time consistently and energy consistently to do what we are doing here are just better people. And I don't mean that to mean like I'm better than anybody else, but I mean like we become better versions of ourselves. If you're just comparing me to who I was before martial arts or me to who I was before this retreat, I'm just better. And to have the opportunity to spend a weekend where you're not having to deal with work and you're not having to deal with jerks. You're just dealing with the people who are here practicing and have the same kinds of goals and the same kind of attitude towards life is worth any amount of time and any amount of money and as many flights across the country as it takes. It's amazing. And to be able to reconnect with some people who I haven't seen in a year, who I used to practice with and see every day, is amazing. Even if I don't get to physically practice with them, just to kind of be around them and just be in the presence of this type of thing is incredible. There's nothing that happens like this, quite like this, anywhere else. There are other retreats, and there like other martial arts schools that do retreats. They go and they play volleyball, and they I don't know what else they do. They do very little martial arts. And then they do a little bit of martial arts, and they're like, yeah, this is a martial arts retreat. This is what we do. It's not real. It's not good. And when we do it this way, it's just another example of like how real what we're doing is, and how Sifu Brown and therefore I, because that's the only way that I know how to do it. We don't water it down. And most people would think of this idea of like taking your students out into the woods for a weekend and making them sleep in cabins and bunk beds, and then waking them up at 7:30 in the morning, or I guess 7 o'clock in the morning, and making them work all day long. It's like half my people are gonna quit if I put them through that. And maybe at other schools they would quit, so you probably shouldn't do it. But here, this is just the kind of people that we are. We're a little bit nuts, and we can appreciate that. We can appreciate, how we get forged anew, and how we get honed and sharpened every time we put ourselves through something. So meditation is similar, as I have to end every meditation talk with some kind of a bringing it back to meditation. Most martial arts schools, they don't put meditation as part of their testing. Very few do. In fact, I only know of 2 or 3, us and the 2 schools in Michigan. But if you went into most places and said, all right, to get to the next rank, you have to be able to meditate and sit totally still for an hour, they would not make it. And the process of trying to get there would be amazingly difficult and have a huge benefit, but most people just wouldn't be willing to do it. They're like, what are you talking about, meditation? They wouldn't even know what you're talking about. I mean, literally, but also to make them do it. So when we sit, I mean, our meditations for this class are short, but you want to kind of revel in the difficulty of it. Meditation is supposed to be a little bit tough. It's supposed to be a challenge to be able to sit totally still without moving, to be able to keep your mind as focused as possible for whatever period of time. And when it wanders, not beating yourself up, but just having the wherewithal to bring it back and be in the moment. And that way that we practice is like this spirit of whatever gets thrown at me, I'm going to take it and I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to come out stronger and better on the other end, even if my leg doesn't work as well as it did before. I still know that I'm better for it, and everybody who got to come on retreat is too. So let's sit comfortably.